How does it feel to be sitting in the hot seat, Nicky?
Oh, you're in the hot seat. It feels weird not having a guest.
I know. I mean, normally we have somebody telling their stories, and I don't know. I think that maybe possibly doing a little bit of a recap from this last year. We've had so many great guests on the show. A lot of great things have happened, some sad things that have happened with the passing of Flip Pallot. With that being said, I think we could also talk about the importance of mentors and people that inspire us. So be like Flip and the rest of the gang that have passed on. But also, too, what we're about ready to embark on this fall. The seasons have changed. The weather's turning, and we're going to go scream at somebody here in the next couple of days, even though they don't want to hear us.
Yeah. I think a lot of people want to hear about your Bolivia trip, too. We posted some photos, and a lot of people were interested in how that unfolded, your trip in Bolivia, chasing those Golden Dorado, and also the Hall of Fame. You got inducted into the IGFA Hall of Fame. That's a big deal.
Yeah, that was fun.
Let's let's go to the Bolivia trip.
Okay. Yeah, no worries.
Let's do that.
As a fisherman, we have bucket lists, right? I mean, at first, when we were younger, we want to catch a fish. Then we want to catch as many as we can. Then we want to catch a big one. And then, if you're lucky enough, you get to travel the world like we have for a long time.
You have.
Well, you have too. And then you seek out these fish that are so majestic in their own right in different waters around the world, whether it be a steelhead in the various waters where they swim, salmon, big trout, than the saltwater fish. But a Golden Dorado in Bolivia has always appealed to me because of their spectacular beauty. You know, they jump, they fight hard. But when you take a closer look at their teeth, most animals and fish have teeth that grow vertically, except for sharks. Those teeth grow inward like this. So when they grab something, it's really hard for that prey to get away. They have a hold of it, and these things are born to kill. They're born to eat. And a Golden Dorado is the same. And hopefully we'll post a photograph of these teeth where they grow back in their face, and there's actually rows just like a shark. So it's a freshwater shark, but it's so beautiful with that golden hue. If you take a closer look at the cheek plate on a Golden Dorado, you have all these veins, darker veins, almost like a fingerprint. And to me, it's a spectacular fish. And if you like to fish streamers, if you are a trout guy that likes to throw streamers, you have to go and fish for a Golden Dorado. And where I went was the Pluma Lodge. It was the helicopter fly in, fly out, the Pluma Lodge.
What was it was Untamed Angling, right? Untamed
Angling. Marcelo Perez started this 25 years ago, and he's become quite famous. And if you're interested, queue up some of these videos, because these fish live where I went in smaller rivers. Now, you have bigger fish in some of the Argentinian rivers in Argentina, and I think other locations down there, but the water's much bigger, and you do long casting, blind casting all day long. And you might catch a real big one, but I don't think you're going to catch that many for the most part. For me, I would rather fish a smaller river like the Pluma River where we were, the Pluma Lodge, and the helicopter fly in and fly out.
So you're flying out of a helicopter every day,
yes,
and fishing a different river every day?
Well, you fish different parts of like
different
sections.
River,
different sections. The upper sections, some of the sections have a big rocky terrain. It's spectacular. I mean, boulders like you've never seen before. And you walk up these boulder fields for a number of miles, and at the end of the day, you get picked up with a helicopter and taken back to the hotel. But I like the smaller rivers, especially the upper part where there's more turbulent water, because you can see these fish, and it's like trout fishing in small rivers, right? So you're blind casting to far banks, and you're stripping this fly really, really fast, and you get that reactionary bite. All of a sudden, that Golden Dorado comes over and just crushes your fly, like with the recklessness that these fish have is just.
There's no feeding the fish, correct? You're just putting it in front of them.
You're doing this. You're just ripping this fly across their face, and they're downstream as fast as you can possibly imagine, grabbing your fly.
Right.
And what's kind of hard about this is, like, a lot of times they want you to throw upriver. Well, meanwhile, the current is bringing the fly at you pretty quickly. So you're stripping as fast as you can to keep up, to keep the slack out. And then now this fish is coming downriver, and he clobbers this thing. So to get tight, to find resistance is a little bit hard. So you lose a lot of these fish. But it's such tight quarters, it's combat fishing. And like a couple of the bigger ones I caught, you could see the yellow in that river. And you throw that fly up there, and there is no mistake about it. You will get a bite. And it is something that I know that I'm going to want to do a whole lot more.
Do they fight hard? Or do they just jump and tire themselves out?
They jump viciously.
Yeah.
And they tire themselves out. And the way they fish, straight 40-pound test. So they're just stripping and holding that fish because of a lot of boulders or whatnot. I fished 20-pound test, and I could do the same and get away with it. It was no problem fishing IGFA 20 or less.
They let you fish 20, huh?
Well, there was a discussion that was had.
Let me ask you this. Why did they not want you fishing 20-pound test?
I don't think that they thought that I could catch these fish on 20, because the night before Marcelo told me, he said, you won't be able to catch these fish on 20. And it just goes to show you, when you travel the world, what certain areas of fishing, they don't know what they don't know, right? And I think, like, a lot of people haven't really done a lot of fishing, so they want to give them the best chance to catch a bigger fish. And a lot of people are not conscious of IGFA and how, that works, in the fact that the confines of fishing for world record fish is when you fly fish, you have to use 20-pound test or less. But that doesn't mean that you're not fly fishing. If you're using a fly rod and using 40-pound test, you're still fly fishing. You'll have to, propel the fly with a string. But for me, I want to fish my way. I was not going to fish 40.
Yeah, but it seemed like they were adamant in you not fishing 20, where there was a more meaningful. I don't know. Were they scared that you were going to break fish off and you were going to leave flies in the fish's mouths?
That could be possibly the case, but you have to ask them. But I just flat told them. I said, you can send a plane. I'll go home tomorrow.
Yeah,
I'm not fishing 40.
Yeah,
and you're fine if you fish. The hard mono, Scientific Angler 20-pound hard mono, you'll catch a 200-pound tarpon with that. That's the world record. You'll catch marlin, billfish. You can catch anything in the world with 20-pound test. That hard mono is like a rope. But, that just goes to show you that the more you travel around the world, you see certain areas of the world where they're just not in tune and understanding. The problem is, for me, I feel like the angling skill is not exposed well enough. Like, you're not angling if you're fishing heavier tippet. Let's just say if you're catching a sailfish and you're using straight 80-pound test, there's no angling skill to that. There's no angling skill to catching a Golden Dorado on 40-pound test. And I want to be involved. I want to be an angler when I fish.
Sure, and some people don't care about that. Some people just want to catch the fish.
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
But don't tell me how I am supposed to fish.
Yeah. So what rods were you using? 9 weights, 8 weights?
So I just took down our Hardy Marksman 4-piece rod, an 8 weight and a 9 weight. And I love throwing the 9 because, we're using Scientific Angler, this jungle clear tip sink tip fly line.
It's called the jungle?
It's the tropical jungle clear tip.
Nice.
It's amazing how well this thing casts. So it's a sinking tip, clear tip, and it's perfect for that kind of stuff. This fly line would work for a lot of other fish around the world as well. And then the Scientific Anglers, the 40-pound, this is knottable wire. And what's really interesting, they were tying a knot that I've never seen before. So they would tie an overhand knot, just a simple one overhand, and then they would tie a knot at the end of the wire right here. And then once that little knot at the end of the wire passes through the eye of the hook, they stick that knot through the overhand and then just tighten that overhand like that. And there's your overhand loop knot. And to get it open, you just...
That's the same thing as tying the overhand knot after going through the eye of the hook and then back through the overhand, correct?
No, this is a little bit different because you don't spin it up the main line at all. You just take, so let me just tie a little knot here. You can see how right at the end of the wire, this is basically an anchor knot, right? So here's
a lot of people aren't going to see this. They're listening.
Okay, so I'm tying an anchor knot right at the end of the wire. When I pull that tight, right, I can pass this through the eye of a hook. And I tied an overhand before I tied that wire. So here's the overhand. I go through the eye of the hook, and then I take this end piece of the wire that's got a little knot on it, overhand, just as an anchor, and then I tighten the main overhand on the other side. And then you have a loop knot, and if you want to change your fly, you just loosen up that overhand, slide the tag out, change your fly, and push it back through. And they're all joking, saying that the guys from Argentina didn't have enough money to buy more wires, so they came up with this knot.
That's a great idea.
It's a great idea because that knot, that little tag secures it on the other side of the overhead, and you can change that fly regularly.
Push that mic just a little further out, if you don't mind. Interesting.
But, so, and the flies, this is one of the flies that I was using is just basically a bait fish pattern for a Golden Dorado. And they crushed this thing. And the Pacu were eating these big mice things, and I had one on that ate a big grasshopper. It's a very interesting fish because they like big, slow water, deeper pools, and you throw it way out there in front of them, they just come over and sip. I didn't catch one. The guides were telling me, you're going to break it off on 20 because they hit so hard. I had this bite. I was worried about this massive explosion. And anyway, I was clearing the line and the hook fell out.
So how many miles do you think you're walking a day when you're Golden Dorado fishing?
Look, when you go down to a foreign country like this, you have all these boxes you have to check. So before we went down, I was told from the members of the party that were there the year before that you have to be careful about diarrhea, yellow fever, the bugs, the cortisone, the itching. I had a bag that weighed 40 pounds, and 38 of it was all in medications, for bugs and everything else. But what was the question?
How many miles?
Were you
walking a day?
Yeah, so they were saying, okay, you have to take Vaseline for your feet. You got to put Vaseline on your feet so you don't get blisters, and you got to put Vaseline in your crotch so you don't, get rubbed raw. It's like, where are these guys fishing? I mean, the fear factor was over the top.
I think you just got to be prepared for anything.
Yeah, I mean, look, how often
there's
do you
not
put
a convenience store where you're going to get Vaseline if you really need it.
I love the old adage. I'd rather have and not need than need and not have.
Yeah.
But anyway, long story short, or shorter, the walk is not daunting at all. If you're an active person, if you're not overweight, certain areas of the rivers that you do fish have a lot of boulders, and you got to pay attention. Like I was always walking with a wading stick, up the boulder field, and I still fell one day. But you're so removed, you just have to be really conscious of how far removed you are. And the fact that you just try to take it at a slower pace so you don't fall anywhere. You don't want to get hurt because you are in Bolivia and you're a long way from the mainland or from the main city of Santa Cruz.
Mm-hmm. What about the size of fish? What was like the average size of fish? I mean, when you look on Instagram or online, you see these Golden Dorado that are 20 and 30 pounds. That's not the average size. I mean, that's a real trophy.
That's a real trophy.
You're fishing for what, 5 to 8 pounders most of the
I
day?
would say you're fishing for 3 to 5 pound fish, but they're vicious. I mean, a 3 pound fish would eat the hell out of a 10 pound brown trout.
Is that right?
I mean, they're just crazy. They're a freshwater shark. They're so aggressive. And a lot of times you'll see these Dorado in the shallow water chasing the sabalo, which are like a mullet that you see in the ocean. And these sabalo are everywhere. So you'll have runs of sabalo. When the runs get really good with fresh water, you get more pushes of the sabalo up the river. The Golden Dorado follow them.
Isn't that Spanish for tarpon?
Yeah, I think it is, but that's what they call these things.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. What about, so when you...
But anyway, some of these fish are like in no water. Half their body is out of the water, and they're like tailing bonefish, but aggressively struggling in the shallow water just to be able to get to the sabalo to eat. And you throw your fly in there, and you're immediately hooked up. I mean, like right now.
So what's a big fish for the guides? Like what size fish are the guides getting an upper octave in their voice going, oh, this is a big fish?
I hooked one with Marcelo the very first day, and he jumped out of the water, and I would say, it's hard to say, maybe 20 pounds. It was exciting because we were both catching fish that were around 5 pounds, and all of a sudden you see a 20-pounder go flying through the air. You go, oh, my God.
Yeah.
And you're in a very small river. I mean, it's very exciting. And this fish fell off the hook, and I was thinking, man, I want to get that thing in my hands. And I eventually caught one. But like I said before, it is a very aggressive fish. So your focus and the excitement is always at a pretty high pitch, because in this little river, you never know when that monster is going to come flying out of a corner.
So when you're walking upriver, are you ever blind casting, or are you only hunting, trying to find the fish in the current?
You're working the river, just like if you were, here at the Roaring Fork. If you're going down streamer fishing, you're hitting the banks, you're swinging the fly in front of those rock boulders that are pushing water, holding.
So you don't necessarily always see the fish holding.
Not always.
Interesting.
But you're throwing a 9-weight with a sink tip and a big fly. Words of advice: if you want to travel the world of fish, make sure your casting is where it needs to be. Otherwise, you're going to set yourself up for big disappointments. And that goes for any travel fishing that you're going to go on. Even if you're trout fishing, a bigger water, or steelhead fishing, you have to understand how to double haul, to create speed, to get that fly across, because you're throwing these big flies, right, with a 9-weight sink tip line.
What are those? That's 6-inch fly?
Yeah, I mean, they're big and heavy, and then they get filled with water. They're hard to throw. So do yourself a favor, practice. But look on the internet, understand what a double haul is, and understand what a tailing loop is, so you can identify a mistake. That's a premium if you want to travel fish. And
you've been almost all over the world, so that's safe to say that's one of the best fishing trips you've done.
Yeah, look, I can put a numbers game on this. So we did, when I had Sportsman's Journal for 7 years, I think it was, we did, 91 TV shows from around the world. I would say the propaganda out there for travel fishing is at about 80%. And that propaganda meaning
there's false marketing.
Yeah. So if you want to travel fish, it's really important to understand where you're getting the information and how viable it is and reliable. Because everybody wants your money, right? Mm-hmm. So, but anyway, this trip here to the Pluma Lodge with the Untamed Angling, it's a place I want to go back to, and I want to go back a bunch of times because it's that exciting. I mean, I'd love to take you back there at some point. The helicopters themselves are really cool. I don't know how many people out there have flown around in helicopters, but you're in this little bubble, and there's like 4 of you. It's like floating around in a big in a bubble. Big plastic bubble. You see everything. You fly over these rivers. You fly over the jungles. It's a fascinating experience, And the food is great for sure.
Cool.
But we went with 8 guys, and all of these guys know each other. A lot of these guys are saltwater fishermen. None of them are guys, but I fished a bunch with a number of these guys. I've gone to Alaska with some of them. We went last year striped marlin fishing in Los Locos in Mag Bay, Mexico. These guys were on the trip, and every night we'd get back, after fishing, and we're having shots of Jack Daniels. We're going caliente, crazy, and everybody's having so much fun. Every night it was a party because it was a big celebration for the experience we had that day.
Right. Cool. All right. When am I going?
Let's go next year. We can go after elk hunting.
Cool. That was a great recap of your trip to Bolivia. You want to talk a little bit about Flip and his passing?
Yeah. So I'd like to talk a little bit about Flip, and mentors and people who have paved the way, for all of us in the world of fishing. And if you like to read, I was always fascinated with some of Hemingway's stuff. Zane Grey, who was a Western writer who traveled the world back when, you couldn't get to South America without sailing there. So he'd spend 3 weeks to get there and talk about all the fishing he did in Tahiti. He wrote a book called Swordfish and Tuna that he was catching off of Catalina Island in California. Then he would fly to Florida, had these 3 boats built, and he would go up to the Northeast and catch big bluefin tuna. And he was talking about how all these bluefin liked herring. And they had these commercial fishermen with these fish nets, and they were catching the herring where these bluefin tuna used to travel. And Zane would say that when one of the guys would have a bunch of herring in their pen, the bluefin tuna would get around it. And he would kind of raise this big flag of some kind of like notification, like come over. And then Zane would buy some herring, and then they would hand feed these bluefin tuna, right? And they get them up behind the boat, and then all of a sudden they'd stick a hook in one of the herring. And now the first run of a big bluefin tuna was like 5 miles long. So what these people have done for me in my life has always shown, what's possible. What these guys have done over the course of history, traveling around the world catching these great fish before anyone had ever done it.
And Flip was that modern era guy.
And in the world of fly fishing, you had Flip, you had Lefty, you had Chico, Norman Duncan, when
can't forget Huff.
And Huff too, for sure. But these guys were just a little bit older than Steve. I think Flip was 84 when he died. Steve is knocking on 80, but they were all in the same era in Key West. But like when Lefty died, he was kind of that guy, everybody's guy, because he was kind, he was generous, he was informative. His humor was just outstanding, and he was born with a heart that kept. He would do anything for anybody, but he was also great. And he once said, I'll never forget, he said, it's easy to improve on something, and it's very difficult to originate something. Mm-hmm. So the guys who are inventing fly lines and reels and changing the game, that base floor, really paved the way for, the rest of us. We have it easy with the monofilament and the hooks and the fly lines we have today. But also, too, what these guys have always done, they bring us to the table. And I say that because, as you remember, we were watching Flip's Walker's Cay Chronicles, for years before I ever met Flip. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to be on his boat. There were these fish that were flying through the air, the tarpon and the sailfish and the marlin and the great adventures of the writing and the cinematography. It's like, I want to be there, right? And then you jump forward a number of years, maybe 15 or 20, whatever. Now I was on this TV show called Fly Fishing in the World with John Barrett, and I saw a tarpon eat my fly and then jump forward. Now I'm doing a tarpon clinic at a BTT symposium, and in the crowd is Lefty Cray, Flip Pallot, and Stu Apt. And they're listening to me talk about how to catch tarpon with a PowerPoint presentation and a pulley system to teach people how to fight fish. And then we go next door, and I'm standing with these guys, and I would say, they became really, really close friends in so many different ways. I was on one of Flip's TV shows. But what Flip did, he gave me the interest. I was always a fly fisherman, as you know, growing up here in Aspen, when we started fishing here in the local waters. But to be able all of a sudden be able to fish in the salt, without Flip Pallot and his TV show, I would have probably never got there. I would have never known about it. But then, too, there was Larry Dahlberg, who we just had on the podcast. He had this most amazing show where he had traveled to 87 countries over the course of 27 years, and he brought the TV show The Hunt for Big Fish to the audience. And on our podcast, I think he said one of the most brilliant things I've ever heard. And he said, the thrill of fishing is the moment of discovery. The greatest thrill of fishing is the moment of discovery.
The greatest thrill in all of fishing is the moment of discovery, yep.
Yeah. But also, too, Steve Huff had said that he's always said, don't tell me where they are because you're stealing from me.
Right.
That's the nugget you're taking out of my pocket if you tell me where these fish are.
Right.
Because I'm not going.
And that's a true angler, true hunter, true sportsman.
Yeah.
A lot of people want the freebies.
Mm-hmm.
And that's easy to get intel from a friend or from whoever that there's good fishing in this spot or use this fly here.
Well, here's the problem with that. If they tell you and you go there the next morning and that person who told you gets there after you, they're going to think, well, I just told you my spot. I didn't tell you could go there.
Right. I remember this past weekend when we were in Springfield for the IGFA Hall of Fame induction, we were sitting down with all your buddies at dinner, and Steve was across from me, and he was telling this story about some Lower Keys guide coming up to Steve saying, "Oh my God, the fishing was just absolutely incredible this afternoon. You know where they were? They were right." And Steve goes, "Stop. I'll find it. I'll find that spot. Mm-hmm. And when I find that spot, it's going to become my spot. Because if you tell me, that's not my spot."
Right.
And I thought that was brilliant.
Well, I thought one of the best occasions in the outdoors I've ever had was with you when we killed this elk up on top of this mountain. And two of our very best friends here in Aspen are great bow hunters, but no one tells anybody where they hunt, right? And then afterwards, we were making some cow calls because we thought we heard these elk, and it was actually we were calling each other back and forth, and they came walking up.
We were calling our friends back and forth, yeah.
Yeah. And they came walking up with it, and we were standing over a dead elk, and they go, "Oh no!"
They couldn't believe we were in
their honey hole.
Yeah.
It's like it was crushing because they realized that their honey hole was no longer theirs.
And then it reconfirmed to us that, man, we did find a gem of a hunting spot.
Yeah,
because this is their best spot, and we found it on our own. That was pretty funny.
That was the greatest thrill in my hunting life. Is not only finding that spot, but disappointing, breaking their heart.
And I remember we were having a couple cocktails later, and he goes, "You know that spot I found you guys in? That's my Craig Key. Stay out of that spot."
So getting back to Flip, I mean, come on. It's a hole in all of our hearts. We were all gutted in the fly fishing world because of so many reasons that Flip had given us to believe and to be inspired. And one of the things that I always loved about Flip is that he always wanted you to shoot with a trad bow, right?
Yeah.
He said trad bow hunting is fly fishing in the hunting space.
Yeah.
And I told Flip, we hunt public land elk. We wait for 2 years to get a shot.
Yeah.
So if you're hunting in a private ranch where you have a lot of animals, I understand trad bow.
Right.
But when you are walking, for 2 to 3 weeks every day, 5 to 8 miles every day on public land, and you might get a shot once every 2 years, I'm not hunting with a trad bow.
Yeah, you didn't kill an elk for 3 years. I mean, that's how hard it is.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
But I don't think that he understood that the realistic success with a trad bow, public land elk hunting is so much harder.
At the end of the day, you want to be successful. I mean, you're not just taking the antlers home. You want the meat. We elk meat every day.
I don't like to hike with a bow.
Yeah.
I want to hunt with a bow.
Right. And I remember the last time, or that podcast we did with Flip, at the end of the podcast, we were sitting around his trailer, and he might have been shooting some arrows, and he said, I want to give you a gift. And he looked at me, and he wanted to give me one of his first trad bows. And I didn't think I was deserving at the time, because I've never shot a trad bow, and I was playing it cool, like, no, please, I'm not deserving. And long story short, I did not receive the longbow because I told him I'm not worthy of it. And I wish I would have his longbow right now. That was a big mistake. But
you look at things that people give you over the course of a lifetime, and you look back. I mean, I'll look back at some of my ski stuff and some of these people that inspired me to be a skier. And it goes to the story that, in the line, no one wins alone. Somebody got you there for some reason. You might have taken your own path, but the table was set somehow, some way, somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. That somebody had inspired or shown you why you want to go there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It was sad when we received the news that he had passed, because, man, he was the larger-than-life figure. And like I said, I've always said this, whenever you're in his presence, there's like this aura. It's like
it was special,
being around a really, yeah.
We were he first contacted, just before he died, he called me in Bolivia, and he said, I've got an idea for us. And I tried to call him from Bolivia. I couldn't get through. He was in the woods or whatever. And the unfortunate thing about his passing is that I don't think that death was on the table. He was not deathly, right? He was going in for a procedure. But he told me in this text that he had something that was going to be, fixed through, surgery. And he was going to be fine. He'd see me on the other side. And he told me, he said, tomorrow they're taking me to see the wizard.
Yeah, really strange.
Right?
It's really strange wording.
And I was thinking at that time, knowing that, at the time, I thought, well, he's going to go see the great doctor that's going to fix him.
Right.
And then he ends up passing.
Yeah, strange.
He's with the wizard, all right.
Really weird.
Yeah.
Anyways, he'll be missed forever.
Yeah. Big time.
Should we talk about our tarpon season?
Let's talk about the Hall of Fame.
The Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Skip Smith is the man, right? If you've never heard or read this book, The Tales of the Madam and Her Hooker, it's a book about Jerry Dunaway and his wife, Deborah, when they went around the world with a freighter that held like 70,000 gallons of fuel. And they figured out how to get this I don't even know if it was a GNS or it was a marlin boat, like a 42-foot marlin boat up on the back deck of this freighter. And they went around the world for 19 years chasing world record marlin. And when I read that book, it was similar to the book that Ron Hamlin had written. Ron Hamlin was a great bill fisherman. They called him Captain Hook because he had polio, I think it was, and his right arm was always curled. And he became a professional bowler at one point. I think he bowled maybe 10 perfect rounds of 300. And he became the great bill fisherman in Guatemala. Traveled the world, but he wrote a book called Tournament. So the Tournament book was a fictitious book about the parties and the drugs and the women and the marlin. Well, Skip Smith wrote the real book about the parties, the women, the drugs, and the world record fish.
Yeah, it's called The Tales of the Hooker and Her Madam.
And Her Madam.
Yep.
That's right, the Hooker and Her Madam. Mm-hmm. An incredible book. And then when I called Skip, we got to know each other. We did 2 podcasts with him. And if you want to listen to an amazing story about a guy who had an incredible life on the open seas. It's Skip Smith podcast that we did with him.
One of the greatest podcasts that we've done, I think.
Ever.
He's just a wealth of knowledge.
And what an honor it was to be inducted into, this Fishing Hall of Fame, the IGFA Fishing Hall of Fame with Skip.
And Richard Stanczyk.
And Gary Carter, who's a trustee, and his wife Cheryl, and Gene Duval, who had like 150 world records or so.
Yeah, that was a big year for.
Yeah, it was
American.
Usually we have international flair, that we induct every year. I say we because I've been the MC for 15 or 20 years. But having an all-American class, it was really special.
What was it like when we walked around the what's the museum called? The
IGFA Hall of Fame Museum.
No, the wonderful. What is it?
Oh, you're talking about the
Wonders of Wildlife.
The museum itself, the Wonders of Wildlife Museum, the Johnny Morris.
Yes,
it's incredible,
unbelievable. It takes like 2.5 hours to walk through the whole museum.
It's a museum and an aquarium in Springfield, Missouri.
The NRA Museum, the Archery Hall of Fame, the IGFA Hall of Fame, just the artwork and the sculptures and artifacts from not Columbus, but
Lewis and Clark.
And
they found the
natives.
Northwest Passage.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
This is a testament to, I think, Johnny Morris, who is really an American hero, for sure, and for what he's done in the outdoors and fishing and the hunting space, and what a humble, kind human being Johnny is. I have fished with him before, and he's an all shucks kind of a guy, and to see this kind of contributions that he's made throughout his life, he's a real hero.
Yeah, what it cost him $250 million.
So they said
to build that museum. I mean, I believe it. There's probably
I can't imagine that he could do it so cheaply.
There's probably 5,000 life-size taxidermy mounts in that place. And then how do you get a 400-pound arapaima to Springfield, Missouri?
And all the Jack Crevalle and the 400-pound grouper
Goliath
swimming.
Grouper there.
Yeah.
And the bonefish. I mean, there's a dozen 15, 20-pound bonefish in that aquarium.
Yeah. No,
it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So when we got down to the lower level where the IGFA Hall of Fame
banquet room is,
yeah, and we went around the corner and you saw your plaque there, well, how did that make you feel?
Pretty strange.
Yeah.
I mean, you have this wall of fame of all these great names that we were just talking about, Hemingway and Zane Grey and all these people who chase the great fish around the world. And for me, my fishing heroes were those guys too, but more so like the Tom Evans, the Steve Huffs, the guys that were my contemporaries that chased all the big tarpon in Homosassa, and to be my name among, Stu Apt, Flip, Chico, Lefty. It's an inner sanctum for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very cool.
It's really hard. It's really hard to find the words, that represent that kind of magnitude.
I think
when you get older, you've had a big life, right? So
yeah.
I've had great accomplishments in the world of skiing, and now with fishing, to have two lives,
yeah,
that end up in Hall of Fames.
I think it was really cool. I don't want to dive too much on this, but the last sentence or last thing you said in your acceptance speech was that this is the gold medal that I never received in skiing, which was great. I thought that was a really great way to put it.
Yeah, it was. It is for sure. And it's probably even more profound than that. Mm-hmm. Because a gold medal you can actually win. Right? And Mark Sosin always said it best. The greatest honor in your life is to be acknowledged by your peers and to be honored by your peers. And to be inducted into the IGFA Fishing Hall of Fame is something you cannot buy, you cannot win. It has to be earned. And I don't think there are better words to summarize, what that inner sanctum is all about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, congratulations.
Thank you, buddy.
Yeah. What else should we talk about? tarpon season. We had one of the best tarpon seasons we've had in the last 10 years, besides the COVID year. Don't you think? I thought the fishing was really great.
It was really good, you know. But look, we don't fish 6 weeks anymore. We fish 10 days, you know. So
no, we fish longer than that.
Not much.
Yeah, we fished longer.
Maybe 2 weeks at the most.
Yeah, 15 to 16 days.
You know, so if you're going to fish, if you're going to go somewhere to fish, you have to fish at least a week, and you still might get hammered by weather.
Yeah.
But we just got so lucky with the weather, and it just goes to show you that, you know, when's the best time to go and do certain things? Just go when the weather's right. Like tarpon fishermen don't usually target February to go tarpon fishing. But if you
because it's so hit or miss, but when you have those good days,
if you have, you know, 7 to 8 straight days of calm, warm weather, you're going to get rich.
Even in January or December.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it could be the best fishing of the year in the wintertime.
So you got to cross your fingers, you know, when you're in the elements. It's like trying to kill an elk. You know, if you go elk hunting and the weather's terrible and the elk don't want to come out and they don't want to play the game, that's why you just have to spend the whole month elk hunting.
Mm-hmm. Right. What else?
I would say, you know, as a whole, the reason we do what we do, and we being everybody, we play in the outdoors because it is a great adventure. Whether you're hunting or fishing, it takes you down a road. It takes you down a journey that for the rest of your life, there's no dead end. It continues. The only thing that dies is your life. And, you know, so for me, now that I'm 72 and, you know, I don't really have health issues, but I do, I want to stay in that game, you know, and I just would, every time I see people and speak at fishing clubs, I congratulate them for having a connection to the outdoors, having that connection to the fishing space or the hunting space or whatever it might be. Let's just say you love yoga or you like to hike or run or whatever. Whatever it is, your physicality in the outdoors is vitally important to your base core. We are lucky. To be a hunter or a fisherman or an outdoors person, you are lucky. And our lives are always and always will be much greater by having a relationship in the outdoors. Mm-hmm. And even now that I'm getting older and I have a broken body and all that, I can't wait. I can't wait to get out there because you're in the elements with critters and you're alone. And you have a chance to hear yourself think. How often does the normal person have a chance to be alone with their own voices, their inner head voices, right?
Yeah, it's funny when you said that because I agree with you. And you've also said that fly fishing gave me this outlet to reflect on my life and to...
yeah, so we're talking about my Hall of Fame acceptance speech when I made mention of that.
Yeah, you've said that. And you've always said that, and I thought about it in my own personal life, and that's not for me. I mean, I need that dearly. Don't get me wrong, that time on the river or on the flats, I mean, that's what I cherish most. But I'm always like, I gotta catch the next fish. Why aren't they biting? My mind is consumed by the fishing. I don't have time to think about my grandfather or my son, or I'm sorry, but I don't have to, I'm just obsessed with trying to figure out the puzzle and the game plan. Mm-hmm. And why are these fish not biting? Should we go over here? We're a little too far outside, or we need to downsize the leader. Maybe not the worm. Let's throw a black and purple out.
Well, that's because you guide mostly.
No, I don't think so. I don't know what it is, but so hold on. You're telling me when you're on the bow of a skiff and there's tarpon coming down the ocean, you're thinking about...
I'm talking about I'm trout fishing. When I'm tarpon fishing, it's all looking and hunting because you have no time to be distracted. But when I'm trout fishing down here, when I don't really care that much, my mind is thinking, okay, here I am in my life. There might be stuff going on. There might be bad stuff going on. But I have always been able to figure out the answers when I'm on a river. When the phone's not ringing, when somebody's not in the same room as I am, when the TV's not on, when I'm alone out there in the outdoors. That's my creative mind going to work.
That's why you suck at trout fishing? Really? So
Ask me how much I care about
you're
trout.
telling me you don't think about like, oh, I should put a dropper on, or I gotta change this fly.
I do, but it's more. I just like to be on the.
It's more reflective.
It's more about being on the water, hearing the water. If I catch a fish, fine, I'll try hard. But look, I'm 72. I have caught a lot of trout. Catching another trout does not mean that much to me.
No, I understand that, but what I'm talking about is when you're on the river trout fishing, you actually think about your life.
Sometimes.
Okay, sometimes.
Yeah,
okay,
look,
so
like right now, my life is like so perfect.
like, are you just saying that because it sounds romantic, or are you actually? No, I'm serious.
No, I am as serious as a heart attack.
I'm totally the opposite.
Well, you're young still.
All right. Well, should we wrap up?
We can wrap it up. Yeah, I hope people enjoyed this.
Yeah,
it's
and
kind of different for us, but
and I think that if you really want to take that once in a lifetime trip, I think I'd encourage people just to, pay what it's worth, go out there, whether it's Bolivia or Mag Bay or any of the Seychelles.
Yeah,
do it. You got to do it.
Look, it's the same thing as that trad bow that Flip was going to give you and you didn't take. It's that same thing as not going on that trip that you've always wanted to go on. And now you jump ahead 20 years and you look back and you go, I should have gone.
But you don't know when it's your last day. I mean, look at Flip. This was supposed to be a routine surgery, and now he's not here.
Yeah.
So you gotta do it.
Yeah. For sure.
Life's short.
Go often.
Yeah.
Go hard and go often.
All right, Andy.
Okay, Nick.
Well, this has been fun. All right,
buddy. Thanks.
Signing off.
When I saw his bedside story, when I saw it's just a